Today's video is going to be all about IMATS, the things to do, the things to not do, and just stuff and tips in general just to make the whole day a little bit easier. When they used to have the venue in Alexandra Palace, there was a cash point inside, but the queues for that thing was insane, and from what I remember, at the new venue the queues were also insane. They did have a cash point inside. They also had one technically inside in Alexandra Palace, but for both of them the queues are just ridiculous. I'm talking about queues that will go around a couple of stalls, so if you do end up having to queue for cash, you'll be there for at least an hour. So if you can, bring cash. Another reason to bring cash, apart from the fact that it helps you stay within your budget, is that a lot of the stalls won't accept card. Some of them do, but quite a few of them prefer cash. So yeah, you don't want to be caught out on that one. So if you can, bring cash, and then it also helps it make it a lot easier for you to stick to your budget. Tip number 2 is your bag. If you can, don't bring a bulky bag, especially a rucksack, because it can get incredibly crowded and it's really annoying when everyone's jostling about and there's your bag's whacking other people are getting annoyed at you. Not to mention with anything like a bag, because there are so many people, and anything which is kind of like a tote or a backpack, it would be very, very easy for someone to rob you blind and you wouldn't even notice, because there's just so many people, especially around things like the sugar pill store. Well, they didn't have a sugar pill store last year, but wherever they sold sugar pill it tended to get pretty crazy, and the Max store was always completely insane. And not to mention, they also give you a bag when you go there. You get a bag like this, which is really big, and even if you don't end up needing or even wanting one of those bags, most of the stalls will give you a pretty decent sized bag if you buy anything there. So all you really need to bring is kind of your mobile, your keys and your purse, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, you don't need to bring one. If you do bring one, bring something small and bring something which has got a zip over the front and then possibly a flap over that, just to make sure it's a little bit safer. So yeah, you don't really need to bring a bag. Tip number 3 is shoes. I would avoid wearing high heels. Now it depends what kind of high heels, because I'll probably be wearing high heels on the day, but it's the kind of high heels that are really thick and sturdy and they're kind of wedge-like. And I've walked around London all day in those things and I absolutely love them. It's mainly things like stilettos, kind of very thin high heels, anything which after a few hours is going to kill you on a night out. Don't wear them to this, because you'll be crying by the end of the day. Your feet will kill you so much just in flat shoes. So wear something comfy, because after 3 or 4 hours your feet will kill you. Tip number 4, hang on, that's 5, whoops. I can't do it. Tip number 4 is food. There isn't, well, they do have food being served in there, but it costs a fortune. So unless you want to spend just as much on food as you do on the makeup, either bring a little bit of food with you or have a look at the kind of venues around where they're hosting IMATS to see the food that they have. From what I remember, because I did my graphic design kind of 3rd year, not gallery, exhibition thing there, there's a really good pub down the road that does excellent fish and chips, but I cannot remember the name of it, and that was very decently priced. But yeah, if you're the kind of person who just, wants a very particular kind of food, then have a look on Google Maps before you go, because the food there is very expensive. From what I remember, they do have a cafeteria on the 2nd floor, but I'm pretty sure it costs an absolute fortune. So yeah, if you don't really want to get something that's too pricey, I'm pretty sure there's a Sainsbury's nearby, but I could be wrong. But yeah, just check it out on Google Maps and make sure that if you have got any kind of particular food needs, that you know where things are. Number 5 is make a list, because believe me, you will forget things otherwise and you will overspend. So you don't really want to end up overspending, because it's just going to sit in a drawer and it's going to get wasted, and you're going to be thinking, I could have used that money to get something that I would have liked. So make a list, and while we're on the topic of lists, the first day is always completely manic. The first day, you've got to think of it like a watering hole in the middle of the desert. That is how people will behave, and it's going to be insane. Because around the Mac store, it's just hellish, and a gap will open up and there's just like 50 people will make for that one gap. So if you're the kind of person who gets very claustrophobic, I would not advise going on the Saturday. The Saturday is always crazy. So in terms of the list, get things that you absolutely really want, anything you really, really, really want, get it on the Saturday, because it isn't always sold out on the Sunday, but a lot of things, especially bestsellers, they do tend to be sold out on the Sunday. So anything you're really desperate to get your hands on, get it on the Saturday, then sit back, enjoy the rest of the day, possibly go and see some of the exhibitions and talks they're having, and then, you know, come back on the Sunday, if you're going on the Sunday, and just, you know, sit back and relax and have a much less stressful time. Tip number 6, in terms of the exhibition and talks, a lot of people forget that that there are a lot of talks. The problem with the old venue is that the talks used to be held in a different room for the majority of the time, so it was very easy to forget that there were talks being held by very famous and well-known makeup artists. I mean, they've had makeup artists who worked on Harry Potter, on Lord of the Rings in the past, which anyone who loves makeup and is studying makeup or is a makeup artist would find those in general very fascinating. But it's so easy to forget about them because they used to be in another room. From what I remember last year, now they have it on the same floor as all the stalls, so it's not as easy to forget. But if you do really want to go to one of the talks, they have a list on the website of all the different people who will be talking. You know, last year they had Kabuki, who was a makeup artist who did the makeup for Katy Perry. They also, I keep forgetting his name, he's on Face Off, and he did the makeup for Star Trek, but last year he was also doing a presentation there. Yeah, but so that you don't miss them, if you can, put a little alerts on your phone and have it so that it buzzes, and keep it in your jean pocket, because you will not feel it in your bag, I can guarantee that. Put it in your jean pocket, put it on a buzzer alarm, and make an alarm of all the talks that you want to go and see, because otherwise you will miss them. Believe me, time flies in IMATS. That's my tips for IMATS. One thing which is not really a tip, but just to bear in mind, because there are a lot of people there, and this is probably a bit of a no-brainer, but I'm going to say it anyway. There are a lot of people there. It's a pretty big venue. I mean, the roof is very tall. It's not like it's a kind of very small room with a very low roof. But it still can get very hot, and being in London and depending on the weather, especially this time of year, it can get very muggy. So bear that in mind, and don't bring a very big thick coat, because you're going to end up draping it over your arm, carrying it around, and it's going to get on your nerves. So if you're going to bring something like that, you know, bring a really small cardigan that you can just bundle up into a tiny knot. Don't bring anything huge and bulky, it will drive you mad by the end of the day. And that's pretty much it really, other than kind of bring cash, all that kind of stuff. The biggie is mainly bring cash. That is my big tip. It will stop you overspending, and you do not want to be stuck in the queue from hell for the cash point, because you'll waste so much time there. Not to mention your feet will kill you by the end of it. So yeah, those are my tips for IMATS. If you're going, I hope they help, and I'll either see you at IMATS or I'll have a new video for you next week.